Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. Today I have a little bit different video for you. With a lot of products, it's sort of like a does it work or doesn't it work type thing. This is how much it costs, this is the features of it, does it work, doesn't it work, and then with firearms and things like that, you know, there's going to be 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 round reviews, things like that. But very rarely am I in a position where I can really do a well-tracked cost-benefit analysis. And I'm going to do that today with these Infinite Defense Infinity self-healing targets. I am an affiliate of Infinite Defense, but the numbers don't lie, and well, neither do I. So let's get into, are these worth the money? Let's get into it. So again, first and foremost, full transparency, if you missed it the first time, I am an affiliate of Infinite Defense. I have purchased some and I have been given one, and I also won one at an event that they were set up at. So I have received them in a myriad of ways. So how would I judge the benefit of using these targets as far as from a cost standpoint? When I originally reviewed them, they worked fine. I explained to you how they worked. Self-healing targets, self-healing to a point. All rubber targets are self-healing to a point because you still are poking holes in it, and you poke enough holes next to each other and you're going to eventually create a giant hole. The benefit of a self-healing rubber target is that you can shoot it, paint, shoot it, paint, things like that. I've made a handful of Instagram posts and things like that about these targets doing that. With cardboard targets, you shoot it, now you have a giant ragged hole and you have to replace the target or move to the head box, things like that. But either way, in a fairly low round count, you've wasted a cardboard target. Now, one of the things I have seen the most, probably the biggest response I've seen from people in regards to any rubber targets, much less Infinite Defense, to any rubber targets, is that they're too expensive. They're too expensive. Are they worth the money? Now, these come in at a price point of just north of $100 a piece. I think they're $120-ish. If I'm wrong, I'll put it here. Okay, so they're right around $120 a piece. Now I have the benefit of buying all of my cardboard silhouette targets on Amazon. So tracking how often I purchase them and how much money I've spent in a year on cardboard silhouette targets is very, very easy. And to this point, I have not only skipped one iteration of normally one time frame of normally buying a case of targets, which is about $100 in itself, but I am right into the second time of buying them as well. So now I am looking at about $200 roughly, because these aren't dead, about $200 of savings with $240-ish worth of cost. Now, is that the end of it? Is that the end of the analysis? Of course it's not, because you have wood to take into consideration and you have paint to take into consideration. Now, if you're a good shooter, you're not going to go through wood very fast with these types of targets. It's not like a steel target where fragmentation rips up, especially if you have a slanted, a canted steel target where the fragmentation goes downward into the wood and tears up the wood. So as long as you're a decent shooter and you're not hitting the wood of these targets, you're not going to go through them very fast. And considering that the same wood I use on here and that you would likely use on here is the same wood you would buy for cardboard targets, it cancels itself out. There's not an extra cost there. So the extra cost is in the paint. Now, you can, however, say, here's a $4 can of paint. A $4 can of paint lasts me roughly a month, 3 weeks to a month. It really depends. 3 weeks to a month versus a roll of tape that is a couple bucks. How fast you go through that tape really depends on, you know, a tape to plug the holes to cover the shot holes. It really depends on how much you're shooting. And that's where it comes down to with these, the cost versus benefit. Are you a high volume shooter? If you're a high volume shooter, an instructor that has a lot of students and going down range multiple times is not only a potential safety hazard, but it is also time consuming. A high volume shooter or instructor with a high volume of students, I believe, from my experience, that the cost benefit of these is good. That in the long run, I'll save money using these. Now, if you are a low volume shooter, and that's not by any stretch of the imagination a dig at anybody, it's not to say anything negative about people, but if you are a low volume shooter, somebody that maybe goes out once a month, maybe even twice a month, but you're only shooting maybe 100 or 200 rounds at a time, and then of course there's people out there that realistically go a couple times a year and they think that 1,000 rounds is a lot of ammo. Is the cost of these beneficial to them? Probably not. So I want to hit this one point real quick. Is somebody out there is going to say, but you just said you have lots of these targets. And I do. I have 7 of them, I believe, at this point. 6 or 7 of them at this point. These are the 2 Gen 2 targets that I have. The rest of the Gen 1, I never shoot those. Since my initial review, I never shoot those. I almost never have them out at the range unless I need to set up some sort of a run and gun type course. And that's not very often that I need to set that up. I still use cardboard targets. I use cardboard targets for zeroing, things like that. So I'm still using cardboard targets. But as far as shooting infinite defense targets, these are the 2 that I shoot 99% of the time, and they have thousands of rounds through them. So is every shot accounted for in infinite defense targets versus my cardboard targets? Absolutely not. With that said, I don't use my steel targets any more than I ever have, so that's a non-issue. I just use cardboard targets far, far less, significantly less. Now, this is just my opinion. This is my opinion based upon my volume of shooting versus what I've purchased in the past and versus what the cost of these are. At this point, if you'd like to shut the video off and you have the answer, go for it. We're going to get into the condition of these targets currently. So like I mentioned, when it comes to self-healing rubber targets, they will only self-heal so much. I don't care what rubber target you have. They will only self-heal so much. You can only put rounds next to each other, little holes next to each other before they create one big hole. And as you can see, I have shot the center of this out, and the paint is actually crusted here, but I've shot the center of the head out. On this one here, the head isn't shot out as much. There is some damage here. There is a mass amount of damage here. So again, rubber targets are not indestructible targets. They just self-heal to a point so you can continue using them without having to make the trips around range, ripping down cardboard, creating trash, things like that. Take it for what you will, but I thought it was pertinent to make this video based off the amount of feedback I have seen from people saying that they didn't think that the value of these targets equaled, what was beneficial. Again, if you're a high volume shooter, I think they are. If not, they're probably not. So take that for what you will. I appreciate you guys out there, and we'll talk to you later.